Hello, and this is Rohan, and yeah, today we're going to be doing that 200 subscribers special. We're going to be talking about why I play racing games and RPGs, because yeah, I wanted to do a topic where the focus is on myself a bit more. So that's what I decided to do. There were a couple of other ideas I had running around, but this is the one that I thought I could do the best. In the background, I decided to show my Verge. I demoed Gran Turismo 2 A-Spec. That's a mod for Gran Turismo 2 that adds some new cars and a couple of new events and changed a few things too. It's pretty cool stuff. It's definitely something I want to check out one day, so do a full playthrough of maybe. So yeah, I'll think about that. But anyway, for the time being though, let's talk about this. They're going to be looking at, why do I play the games I do? Racing games and RPGs mainly. Again, my horizons are definitely broadened out quite a bit since I figured out that, these are my two favorite genres. Because, again, I tried other types of games, I even played other types of games back in the day, too. I always do like coming back to these types of games because, again, they're my favorites and I feel comfortable with. So I guess, and when it comes to genres, too, I should mention, too, I think we are going to be seeking in a general sense because with racing games, I like most racing games, most types of racing games, should we say? Even kart races. Even though my expertise on kart races isn't what isn't what I used to be because I haven't played a kart race in a long time at this point. So during this, I'm mainly going to be talking about normal racing games. I think, like your Gran Turismo's, your Forzas, your Tokyo Extreme Races in my case, I guess. And Need for Speed, I guess. Those are mainly what I'm going to be thinking about. Role playing games, yeah, there's a lot to it. Of course, I think my focus is JRPGs, and that's mainly what I play, to be honest. I don't really think about other kinds of role playing games, although, yeah, they are definitely quite interesting. So I do think that, yeah, JRPGs are probably going to be the focus, and yeah, there's a lot of ways you can obviously divide those up as well. Like, of course, there's turn-based action, there's more action-based, but of course, things can be a bit contested depending on who you talk to. Like, is Xenoblade an action RPG, for example? Stuff like that, basically. So yeah. So again, we're just gonna be talking about these generally speaking. Again, like I said, genres can differ from person to person depending on how they feel and stuff. Again, I think that's the idea I want to go with this video. But anyway, so let's go over my brief history of playing games. So I started out mainly playing racing games on a hand-me-down PS1. Then quickly after that, I got PS2, and that's where I basically got into gaming. And then I also got an Xbox 360. Yeah, pretty much the only games I remember playing on these was racing games. There were definitely a few other games, like I did mention I did with Spyro back in the day, but yeah, that's really all I can remember. All I really remember is just playing a ton of different racing games. Because when I would go to the game shop and back in the day, that's basically all I picked out. And also Spyro for some reason, I don't know. I don't know why I thought that I wanted to play Spyro, but yeah. Again, like I said though, it was basically all racing games, and that's why I got the console I did too. Although, in the case of the 360, I'm pretty sure I got that just because it was a lot cheaper than the PlayStation 3, but anyway. But around the early 2010s, that is when I would gain a better appreciation for my Nintendo consoles. Because yeah, I did have a Wii and a DS back in the day, but yeah, I didn't really think much of them. Like I did definitely play some racing games on those as well, but then I would gain a much better appreciation once I really figured out there's a lot more to the world than racing games. So what's that about? I think the main thing that helped me gain this appreciation was just watching videos on YouTube, which is something I also started doing around that time as well. And then there are a couple of channels that focused on Nintendo games. That's where I basically found out about these JRPGs, but also platforms too. I think platforms is the first thing because I feel again I mentioned this story before, but New Super Mario Bros. That was probably one of the first non-racing games. I remember seeing actually well played. Um, like out of them, I throwing to start. That was like the spark, I guess. But then, of course, more games would come to mind. I do have to like definitely one LP in particular, Sugar, of course, because he also, the reason why I liked the RPG series I liked back then was because of him. because I wanted to play Paper Mario 2, I wanted to play Pokemon, and later on I play the Mother series. So yeah, so yeah, that would make sense that yeah he would be a very big influence for me. So yeah, but anyway, I don't remember what I remember watching it first. It probably was Paper Mario 2 now I think about it. But anyway, so yeah. So like I said, yeah, around that time, that's when I got into platforms and JRPGs. But yeah, Pokemon though would probably cement the reason why JRPGs was so big for me because yeah, pretty much when I got my 3DS or 2DS in my case, that's basically what I play. I mean, actually no, even before that, it was around when Black Knight 2 came out because yeah, or even a little bit before then because during that time, yeah, that's why I really got into Pokemon. I mentioned this during the hardcore playthrough, and then yeah, I basically did not want to play anything but Pokemon. So yeah, uh, so yeah, then yeah, that's basically when I became fan of JRPGs. I did definitely play some other games during that time, but yeah, Pokemon was just the main thing. So yeah, that's why I kept playing it. So yeah, well, of course, yeah, YouTube is still around though, so I keep watching videos on YouTube, and then yeah, um, there tends to be times when yeah you come across this game that you really like, and then yeah you just want to try out yourself. And yeah, YouTube definitely helped that. Emulators also help with that too. So yeah, and yeah, those are a lot of important things that happened. Watching YouTube videos a lot as well. It helped me, remember the good times I had playing racing games. I still played them from time to time on my 360 player. Definitely not as much as the Nintendo consoles later in the 2010s. So yeah, especially when I got the other types of games. And then yeah, thanks to YouTube, yeah, that's basically how I became. That helped me become the person I am today, pretty much. Because yeah, Fire Emblem, that's because I watched YouTube videos about it. Same with Persona. So yeah. So again, yeah, YouTube is just very important for me. So yeah, will help me, find new games, but also, figure out or basically bolster my favoritism for my favorite genres of games. So yeah. Anyway, so that's the intro. So now let's go on to basically I'm gonna be splitting this up into like 8 little topics. Um and then yeah, we're gonna be talking about basically what aspects of racing games and RPGs do I find very important basically, and what draws me into them basically, or what makes me drawn into Sentai games. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing. And we have 8 talking points here, so this will be decently lovely. So yeah, let's get a move on. Our first talking point is gonna be premise, and premise is pretty simple, especially when it comes to racing games, because yeah, racing games, they have a very good premise for me just because, again, I like cars. That was my main interest when I was younger, and also I like motorsport too. I don't like cars as much as I used to, just because, I don't know, I guess cars are a little bit less interesting nowadays, but I still like motorsport a lot, and I still, eager to learn more about different kinds of motorsport. So, yeah. So, premise of a racing game is gonna automatically be pretty good for me. I like cars, I like learning about them, as well as real life motorsports too. So yeah, that one's pretty simple. But for RPGs, it's a little bit different because yeah, they can intrigue me through their theming, tone, and aesthetic. Basically, does the world, intrigue me, and what does the world, entail and stuff? And yeah, I feel like for this, Persona comes to mind. Like, yeah, of course, the Persona games, they just intrigue me a lot through, the theming they go with too. And so it can also be interesting too. That's less of Persona, more like, your typical JRPG, I guess. Because, yeah, they can have an interesting setting from, they can have an interesting setting with, how it looks, how the world feels. I feel like Xenoblade does a really good job of that. So yeah, and you're saying about yeah, setting is also quite important as an interesting one that's going to get me more interested. And again, I think Xenoblade comes to mind for that because again, Xenoblade just has these really in-depth worlds. It feels like so yeah. So that's why yeah, again, that's one way, premise can be very important in a JRPG. But again, games that take place in the real world also, or close to the world can also intrigue me too, because again, like I said, the theming and stuff that they go with too. So yeah, again, Persona for example, Persona does a really good job of theming, and then for tone, something like your Earthbounds and your Mother series should be saying your Mother series, you play Mario's, main Pokemon points, again, they're a bit more lighthearted, so I like the tone that they go with there as well. But of course, having something a bit more dreary can also have its, positive effects too. Definitely, sell how, this world feels and stuff. So yeah, or how dreary this world can be, and yeah, you can definitely see that with certain worlds later in the late games of RPGs. So yeah, again, it's quite interesting in that regard. And yeah, so I was saying, yeah, these can also be important racing games too. Because of course they're gonna dictate the location you drive at, and yeah, it's probably the main reason why kart races intrigue me too. So yeah, we'll go into that in a bit. So yeah, again, when thinking about racing games again, having, interesting locations to go to, not just, real life locations to drive at too. Like having, a fantasy track that, has very interesting scenery or just a very interesting, setting, for example. That can definitely intrigue me a lot as well. So yeah. And yeah, that's why, the more fantastical race games can come down to, Ezra does a really good job with its setting to how futuristic it feels, and the backgrounds and stuff also look really good too. So yeah. And yeah, as the car racer thing, again, um, the setting is quite bold because, again, it kind of, why do you play Mario Kart? Well, it has Mario characters, right? Why do you play Sonic Racer Crossroads? There's Sonic characters in them, and they interact. So yeah. That's why, again, saying can be very important for racing games. Especially for me as well, because again, there's definitely a lot of fun, Mario characters that I like to play in Mario Kart. So that obviously goes to that. Of course, the locales are excellent too. Rainbow Road's obviously a classic. Buzz Castle is my favorite. Those are the things that come to mind when it comes to Mario Kart. And then yeah, I didn't briefly mention Sonic Crossroads. I haven't watched anyone play it, so I can't really comment on it too much. But again, I do think that similar to Mario Kart, you have, these really interesting tracks, really interesting things. And of course, you have the character banter as well. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's why, again, premise, I think, deserves to be one of these talking points. Again, like I said, if you intrigue, if the game intrigues me through that setting, that theming, the tone, the aesthetic, and all that, all those important keywords we talked about, then yeah, I definitely want to give it a try. And of course, Razer games, yeah, they kind of make that easy for me as well. If if the the racer game looks interesting, like yeah, focus on real cars, maybe focus on a certain time period, like DXR is a good example, focusing on Japanese street racing back in the day. So yeah, that's why I think it's very important. So yeah, and that's something we talk about first. But yeah, let's go on to our next talking point now. Up next, of course, having a good premise is good and all, but you definitely need some good gameplay to back it up, though. And of course, yeah, Razer games and RPGs for me has some of the best gameplay around. So with racing games, again, while racing games don't seem much on the surface in terms of gameplay, I feel like for me, the act of driving itself is just really fun to me because it always feels really good to, get up to speed, feel that great sense of speed, and then, yeah, go around corners really good too with the car all hooked up, trying to grip around the corner as well. That just feels so good, and yeah, no other genre can give me this type of adrenaline rush. So yeah, I mean that's one reason why I just play racing games so much again. Like I said, no other racing game makes me feel the way they do. So yeah, I think that's why I just keep playing that stuff. But of course, I think for me at least, this can differ with a lot of people, but yeah, there isn't like one racing game that I would consider satisfy me like the most, I guess, because yeah, racing games can satisfy me in a number of different ways with their driving. Of course, something like Grudges, of course, it's all about precise cornering, braking, and stuff like that. But then you also got like Burnout with its drifting, People Speed with its more high speed cornering, all that good stuff. And then even kart races too to extent as well with their own drifting mechanics. So yeah, like I said, yeah, there's actually quite a bit of variety in terms of racing game gameplay. So yeah, they can definitely satisfy me in their own ways. And of course, yeah, definitely help. There's definitely some other assets that can definitely help with the gameplay too, but I think we'll go on to that later. But anyway, so yeah, for RPGs, from the most simple, like the Mother series, like I said, to something a lot more complex, like I don't know, Trails, for example. um, they can be very enjoyable because of the battle systems. So yeah, I think the reason why I always look forward to I think the reason why I always look forward to combat in games is because of my love for battling in RPGs. So yeah, but yeah, it's very satisfying to just master the mechanics in said RPG, and yeah, it always feels satisfying to do something like that as well. And yeah, I thought numerous of times about this too, like yeah, with learning about Persona One, even Persona Two games to an extent as well, trying to learn about them as well. And yeah, even like way back when with something like Live Alive, when I played the franchise version of that, it was also very interesting to master that game's mechanics, figure out who the best party members were and stuff like that. And yeah, I can definitely say this for pretty much all the JRPGs I played, especially the very complex ones, but even something simple like Marvel, for example, it just feels very satisfying to hit the enemy where it really hurts the weakness. And yeah, even like back then, yeah, the reason why I like playing the Marvel series was because of the combat, as weird as that must sound. So yeah, um, is again like I said, yeah, just seeing the big numbers that hit the weakness, and also the animations too as well. Yeah, always puts a big smile on my face. So yeah, but I think another important part of RPGs is that a lot of them have lack action, especially turn-based RPGs. Well, something like an action RPG again. Um, there's definitely action to it, but the barrier to entry is a lot lower because, again, it's still an RPG at the end of the day, so if you have the big numbers, you can still win. Of course, I still, appreciate something like Elden Ring, which I started playing, where, yeah, a much better, like, you can still win the numbers game against an enemy, like I have been doing a bit, but a good player can obviously close the gap, obviously, will make the difference, I should be saying, so yeah. So yeah, there's but like I said, though, I do appreciate traditional RPGs, or mostly turn-based, I should say. Like again, having that low bar attention, all I really think about is not how well I can press the buttons, but more about how what my strategy for a fight is. I think that can also be part of me like a problem as well, because again, very strategic game, even though it's technically not a turn-based RPG, but it's turn-based in nature. So yeah. Like, I still do like my action RPGs. I have played a couple of them too, and some of them are like action adjacent, I guess you could say. But again, like I said, I can happily play those just fine because again, I can obviously resort to just being high leveled if I can't do combos well, for example, or they take time for me to learn. And yeah, they can also be very in depth games too, and have very good customization, which we can talk about later as well. So yeah. And yeah, one final point about this too is that yeah, both genres can also feel very comfy to play once you get a good grip on the game I'm playing. Again, something like Grand Theft Auto 4, since I played that so much, it basically became second nature to try in that game. And yeah, I feel like with other types of games, um, that aren't race game and JRPG, I bet that's a lot harder for me. Like yeah, I feel like I'm playing these games a decent amount, and then they basically become natural to play, and then yeah, I think that's a good feeling to have as well. So I mean, that of course, the amount of time any game can feel natural to play, but I feel like yeah, with me and my upbringing and stuff, that's why I feel like race games RPGs just feel second nature to me once I get the hang of it. But again, it's not like every racing game plays the same, and obviously every RPG plays the same as us. There's still a learning process, but I feel like with me that learning process is a bit easier with these kinds of games. So yeah, so yeah. I think that's everything I want to talk about with the core gameplay. So now let's go on to our next talking point. For our next talking point, let's talk about progression, which might be the most important aspect when it comes to my enjoyment of racing games and to an extent RPGs as well. So yeah, I think yeah, in racing games, this is like the deal breaker, I guess you could say. So I think yeah, it's extremely important to me that yeah, in a racing game, things change as you progress, and also yeah, you could obviously say that for JRPGs too, or RPGs in general. So in racing games, yeah, most racing games how they do their form progressions going from slower, cheaper cars to faster cars, or even yeah, tuning up those slower cars to make them go faster as well. So yeah. And yeah, pretty much every racing game. Well, I wouldn't say every racing game, but a lot of racing games, especially back in the day, do this, and even some, less racing games like Burnout. Burnout 3, for example, yeah, you obviously start with slower cars and easier tracks. And then, yeah, as you progress, the challenge increases with faster cars, more difficult tracks. So, yeah. And yeah, those are the next two things I want to talk about. Yeah. As you progress, I also want to, experience different tracks, maybe harder tracks as well, and also overcoming challenges too. Of course, when the car gets faster, you obviously want to be challenged a bit more too. Not only for only because the car is now higher drive, but also the opponent's putting you under pressure as well. So yeah, I can definitely feel like when I have a fast opponent behind me, then yeah, I do feel the pressure, and then I tend to make mistakes. So yeah, but yeah, it's definitely satisfying to overcome those. So yeah. And yeah, another aspect of this though is having different ways to progress, not just a straight line. I feel like that first bit I talked about with the super progression again, if a racing game has that, that's fine by me. But if there are different ways to progress, then yeah, that's icing on the cake. And I do think that Gran Turismo does this amazingly, especially Gran Turismo 4, which if I explain briefly, the main goal of an any percent playthrough is to see the credits, and to do that, you need to beat the Gran Turismo World Championship. The thing that everyone needs to do is just get the IA license, and then also you need to beat all the beginner and professional league events. But yeah, but the thing is though is that you can do this in multiple different ways due to the amount of cars you have on offer, and the fact that there are other events to do too, like the regional events and stuff, and those can help you maybe get a prize card that can help you compete in the events for your main objectives. So yeah, in the beginner and professional league. So yeah, again, it's probably one of my favorite progressions in any game, to be honest. And also, yeah, it feels like a perfect kind of open world too, where you're constantly driving. So that means you're constantly being the main gameplay. When compared to something like open world, where the combat's fun, but the exploration not so much in some cases. So yeah. Of course, though, I feel like with open world games, because I'm playing Elden Ring right now, you can definitely get more enjoyment if you plan stuff out, and also decide where you need to go rather than just wandering around. That definitely helps. And yeah, you can obviously do that with progression. It's called routing, obviously, and yeah, that can also be fun in racing games too. Figure out what I need to do to help me progress. And yeah, Gran Turismo is really fun with that because of prize cards. So yeah, I could go for any Gran Turismo game, especially with randomizers too. And yeah, Gran Turismo adjacent games like the first two Forzas, for example, they were also pretty good at that too. Forza 2 probably has my favorite career mode in a Forza game just because it's very similar to Gran Turismo 4. So yeah, so there's that. So yeah. And yeah, like I was kind of saying with the open world thing again, good progression also makes you appreciate the core gameplay more as well. Like yeah, it basically adds more meaning to the core gameplay, so that's why again, it's very important that the progression is good in the game. And yeah, it's kind of sad to see that modern racing games they don't really think about progression as much when compared to older games because again, multiplayer is more of their focus because that's where the big that's where because Razer games nowadays, they're known for their multiplayer and what that can represent. But as you may notice, as you might figure out later, multiplayer is actually not an aspect I like in racing games, which is make you feel very weird. But well, maybe we'll discuss that more later. But anyway, so back on topic, that was progression racing. It's more RPGs. Again, they also make use of progression. You're more limited earlier on because of lack of options of being lower level. But then as you progress, you can gain more power, explore new locations, and as you do that, the stakes can also keep rising as well. And again, most RPGs do this, and they do, and this can also be different in different games as well. And of course, having games where the progression can differ a bit as well. That can also be very fun in its own right as well. That's where you get into the more open world games. And again, like I said, if you route your playthroughs of those, that's where, things could get really fun. So yeah. But again, uh, I really like, progression in general. Like, you kind of need it for single player focused games, I should be saying. So yeah. I mean, that's why, again, it's probably one of the most important aspects when it comes to game design. I feel like it makes, makes you appreciate what happens to you later on when you get more powerful stuff. So yeah. And also, it's also important, difficulty because stuff, definitely don't skip out on progression when you're thinking about, single player focused games. So yeah. That's definitely the tip for today. So yeah. So yeah, again, that's why again I feel like it's definitely one of the most important aspects and the main reason why I play the games that I play. So yeah. Anyway, so that done, let's go on to our next talking point, and another pretty important one as well. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about customization. So, racer games generally give you multiple choices of cars with different stats to tackle the events, or they may give you events that restrict the type of car you're allowed to use. So, you may need to break your comfort zone, try something different. So, yeah, again, just, give you more options of gameplay. I feel like that's also extremely important to me too, especially when we talk about the RPGs. So, yeah. And yeah, having different cars to use, obviously, pretty much every racing game does that. I feel like more realistic racing games like Gran Turismo do this in more interesting ways, just because again, pretty much every car drives differently, so there's obviously going to be cars that suit you better than others, and of course, just cars that are well suited for the event too. And then yeah, I think another aspect I do like about Gran Turismo is the fact that you may also encounter those events where, like I was talking about, you can only use a specific type of car. So again, I think that just adds more to the customization. It means that again, you need to make use of more of your options basically. So yeah, I think that's also an extremely important aspect about what I just said. So yeah. That's an though, because these cars can also be upgraded by either improving the power or the handling. But yeah, normally though, in some racing games, though, you do, or I should say most that I'm aware of, you normally need to pay for upgrades, and this money could have also been used for other things, mainly buying a faster car. So yeah, I feel like when I think about this, TXR comes to mind. You really need to commit when it comes to upgrading cars because parts are very expensive. But you do need that, otherwise, yeah, you're going to be falling behind if you don't upgrade your car with how fast the opponents can be. So yeah, DXR is a game where your money is important. That's because of how the customization works. So yeah, and I think another aspect about it is just because in DXR it's much harder to grind. At least in the older games, I was sure about the new DXR. So yeah. So again, money is just extremely important for those games, and yeah, it ties into why customization I feel like is extremely important in for racing games and why I enjoy them a lot. So yeah. But yeah, customization can go even further beyond. Most games you don't have to pay money for this, but some parts allow you to basically tune, aka adjust the settings of the car to either suit your driving style better or just to make it faster. Because yeah, in some cases there's like some exploits where like mainly happens with downforce. Like for example, in most Gran Turismo games, or most of the Gran Turismo games I put in, you basically downforce max it out is gonna do you a lot more than trying to trim it out for high top speed. That grip in the corners just adds a lot more time. And then in Gran Turismo 2, for example, just adding downforce doesn't even lower your top speed or acceleration anyway, so yeah. And it's funny that Toka Touring cars, which I also recently played, it has the opposite problem with downforce, where you want to put it low because you don't lose grip, and it basically just gives you free top speed. So yeah, it's kind of funny how that works out, but anyway. So again, tuning is something that I've come to appreciate a bit more, especially seeing other people's tuning and then feeling out how they tune their cars as well. It's interesting, and yeah, with some racer games, I even tried to try and make tuning sets for myself as well. I tried doing that with TXR3, and I think it went out pretty good when I last played TXR3 earlier this year. So yeah. Anyway, and of course, yeah, you may be able to change the appearance. Um, for your car as well. That's also another aspect of the customization too. Um, most Like pretty much every racing game, you can change the color of the car, but with games where customization is important, you may also be able to add like body kits, spoilers, new rims, all that good stuff. And yeah, this is really extremely popular in the 2000s. That's why Need for Speed Underground and Midnight Club became, or Need for Speed during that time, I should be saying, starting with Underground, then the Midnight Club games. That's why they were so popular because again, customization cars was very popular back then because of the Fast and Furious. So yeah. Then you had a lot of race games coming up with, the focus on the tuning culture. So yeah. And then, that's when you got very extravagant looking body kits, spoilers, and all that. And yeah, being able to do this outside real life too, I think is also kind of important because, most of the time with your normal car, you don't really need to customize it unless you're gonna, drive it a lot or maybe take it to a track day. But yeah, at least, there's less limits when it comes to a racing game, so that's nice. But anyway, we talked a lot about customization in racing games, but I think it might be even more important in JRPGs, or at least equally as important. Because yeah, pretty much all the RPGs I play, customization, they have customizations. It can be as simple as, having different party members, and meaning that you had to change your party composition. Pretty much, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't say every RPG, but a lot of RPGs allow you to do this, and yeah, it's quite important. Allowing you to know devise different strategies, but also maybe see some different events too as you progress as well. So there's that. There's also equipment. Sometimes equipment can be very fun when it comes to customization because in some games, equipment doesn't just raise stats. It can also, do other things too. And may even lead to different kinds of playstyles as well. I think about, I've been watching a lot of Kingdom Hearts, and yeah, equipment in that game can definitely change things up quite a bit, like, the different keyblades and stuff. So yeah, and yeah, some other RPGs too, like the Final Fantasy remake games that my brother's playing with the different weapons and stuff, that can also, change things up quite a bit as well. And of course, yeah, Sea of 5 Materia. Materia, obviously, that's a form of equipment that also leads to different types of playstyle. And of course, yeah, the port system Trails games. Again, like I said, this basically just makes equipment a lot more interesting, in my opinion. And yeah, it's another reason why I think customization is extremely important. So yeah, anyway. And then yeah, another thing is a class system. So yeah, these can make the same character play differently, and yeah, you've seen this in a couple of different games. Like for example, Final Fantasy V Customized with its job system, where yeah, you can also change classes and then customize your characters from there. And then also Farm, obviously, Farm is really interesting to forgot too. I don't really talk about it with the progression, but I really should have because again, routing is really interesting in Fire Emblem, in my opinion. When I think about conquest, writing out your playthrough there, and then trying to do else, everything you need to do on the map. That's really interesting. Same with the engagement. I didn't even playthrough I did as well. So yeah, and also again, Rhyme is really well known for customization, especially nowadays, because again, recasting. Recasting has become quite the important thing nowadays. So yeah, because again, if there's a character you like, you can obviously, keep changing them each playthrough and experience them in a number of different ways, which yeah, I've definitely done with a lot of favorite characters, mine like Lapis, so yeah, in Engage. So yeah. And of course, yeah, that kind of ties with another thing, replayability. Now I'm not really a person who always wants to replay games, but especially nowadays. But back then, yeah, a lot of my favorite RPGs because of that customization made me really want to replay them. So yeah, Pokemon's obviously a very good example of that because again, your party composition basically changes. It's gonna change like every playthrough with how I plan things out. So yeah, and then yeah, Paper Mario 2 should have told about the equipment system with its badges, but yeah, you can honestly do different badge subs each playthrough as well. Maybe prioritize different badges to go after with your star pieces. So yeah. So again, yeah, replayability can be quite important when it comes to racing oh, both racing games and RPGs. So yeah, again, I think when I was thinking about this topic before, I thought that customization would be the number one thing because when I think about it again, pretty much like all the games I like has some degree of customization to them. So again, I thought that was going to be like the big thing for me. But again, like I was kind of saying before, I think progression might be even more important now. So yeah. especially with my focus on single player games. So yeah. So that's interesting. But again, customization is just so important even still. So yeah, you definitely don't want to skip out of that when you're making either a racing game or an RPG. So yeah, and it can even enhance other games too, like skill trees and Donkey Kong Bonanza, for example. So yeah. But anyway, with that done, let's go on to our next talking point. Next up, let's talk a bit about graphics. So yeah, for me, graphics aren't normally like a main priority for me because I can't just don't mind what a game looks like most of the time. Like yeah, if it looks very old, that's not really a problem for me. If it looks very modern, then cool. But again, it's not something I'm actively seeking out. So yeah, which again, yeah, definitely a bit weird. But again, maybe that has something to maybe it has something to do with the fact that yeah, again, it feels like I think one of the reasons why game development is just so hard nowadays is because of making the graphics look as the best they possibly can. So yeah, I feel like yeah, there's something a bit more important than that. I feel like again, it's the aesthetic. So yeah, with racing games, this can be achieved in a few different ways, like the lighting and the backgrounds because yeah, these can really immerse you in like the situation or the world that you're in. Like yeah, a beautiful looking sunset is definitely going to make you feel like you're racing in that sunset, for example, and also having very nice looking background as well can really make it feel like yeah you're really driving here. And this place is like connected to other places too. That can also be really fun. Ridge Racer does that to some extent as well, because like yeah, Ridge Racer or the original Ridge Racer basically revolved around one track, and yeah, you had different versions of that track too. So yeah, it's not something that can come to mind as well. So yeah. Anyway, I can also appreciate other things like, for example, the camera. The camera can really heighten your sense of speed. I think it's something very important and a little bit underrated for some people when it comes to racing games. Having that good camera really helps. So yeah, it can also make driving a bit easier too when we're talking like third person camera, for example. But yeah, and then yeah, it can also be used for immersion too. Like having a very good cockpit camera, for example, can really help with that. So yeah. Then there's obviously the UI. This can help tie into the theming of the game as well. It can also create its like own mood as well. And yeah, I just there's definitely a lot of games I like scrolling through the UI. Because again, either it looks really interesting or either looks really interesting or just I don't know, just really looking at it. Again, I think Persona comes to mind when it comes to UI. So yeah. Anyway, anyway, let's now more think about RPGs. So yeah, RPGs are more likely to use a specific art style, and yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of art styles you can see. Um, some RPGs might look a little bit more realistic. Some really go all in on the anime aesthetic, which I really like. So yeah. Again, I definitely like a lot of different ways we've seen RPGs be presented over the years. So yeah, whether that's 2D sprites or nice looking 3D models. So yeah. Anyway, and yeah, they can a lot of RPGs just look really cool in their own ways as well. So yeah. Anyway, and yeah, another way that RPGs can stand in terms of graphics is character design. So yeah, some people are gonna roll my eyes by saying this, but I feel like Xenoblade 2 probably has some of my favorite character design in an RPG. Yeah, no, Pyro's design, Mithra's design without the massive Mithra. And again, there's definitely some designs I'm not the biggest fan of either, like some of the rare blades, like Dahlia for example. But I feel like yeah, she's like one of the few I don't really like. Like yeah, the character design is just so well done in Xenoblade 2, and also it's like yeah, the UI is also really good as well. Like yeah, I love what all the main characters look like. Morak is definitely, I feel like Morak is like a counter argument to the designs that are a little bit more questionable. I feel like so yeah. For example, and then of course, yeah, I think one reason why I love Poppy Cutie Pie so much is not only because she's broken in combat, but also yeah, her design is just so nice as well, in my opinion. So yeah, again, like I said, you may roll our eyes at that because yeah, there's definitely a lot of characters who show a lot of skin in that game, but again, I just think outside I thought they just look really good. So yeah, um, so again, yeah, character design can be important, and again, yeah, Persona also is quite well known for a lot of these things too. like every Persona game, one thing that people really like is that each Persona game has a color that's associated with it. And yeah, they really tie into that too. And yeah, UI design ever since Persona 5 has been like extremely important as well. So yeah. And yeah, Persona 3 Reload went even further beyond with its gorgeous looking menus. So yeah. So again, like I said, the graphics themselves, they can be important, but again, I think what you do with the graphics is what's more important actually. Again, all the games, yeah, they had less to work with, so they needed to, um, so yeah, they had their own limitations to think about, and yeah, still, a lot of games still look quite good today, to be honest, with, the lesser techniques they had available, so yeah. And yeah, there's obviously, I guess another thing to think about too is that, yeah, back in the day, yeah, racing games were like the poster child for, the graphical leaps in consoles, like, for example, Ridge Racer 5 and Gran Turismo 3 really showing off what the PS2 was capable of. No other games really looked like those games back in the day, so yeah. That was how big of a step up they were for the console as well. And again, you don't really see that nowadays. It's mainly big open world games that are the showcase of the console's power. So yeah. Anyway, so that's something interesting to think about. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Well, again, it's not an asset of the game. Well, on the surface, it's not an asset of the game that seems that important to me. When you think about it more carefully, it can be quite important in its own right, and yeah, it can obviously aid in premise, which we talked about before. So yeah. Anyway, let's go on to our next talking point. Oh, we talk about some sound this time. So yeah. So this might sound strange for a lot of people, but I really like listening to the sound of the cars I drive. Because again, it does help with my driving, kind of gives you an idea of, cornering and stuff, braking points, so yeah. But yeah, it also, adds the emotion as well. Of course, yeah. When you can feel what your car sounds like, then yeah, that definitely, is going to add a lot of immersion to the game, so yeah. And yeah, also for me as well, this also might sound a little strange, but I don't know. But I feel like the sound of a car can also like feel very calming for me as well. So yeah, again, it's definitely a bit weird, but yeah, it probably does come from me liking cars a lot back in the day. So yeah, I do think that yeah, the sound of cars actually kind of important. And yeah, racing games obviously do that. Some obviously better than others, but even like something like Gran Turismo, which isn't very well known for having good car sounds, I still quite like hearing the cars in those games. So yeah. Anyway, of course though, there's obviously the soundtrack. So yeah, a lot of racing games will have music to accompany the driving, and yeah, some games are pretty notable for using a licensed soundtracks. And yeah, there's some games that feel like they really influence my taste in music. I think yeah, the main things are Burnout Free Takedown, which is basically a rock, so that got me into rock, and then also some tracks in Gran Turismo 4 as well. Those really, um, those really got my taste of music going. So yeah, and then yeah, YouTube videos also help with that because there's like some random videos that use certain songs and stuff, and I really want to listen to them a lot after that. So yeah, and it's something that just keeps happening now. So yeah. I mean, most of the time I do find music, it's just from random videos, so yeah. Well, of course, games can also help with that too, so yeah. Anyway, for the RPG side of things, for me, when I think about the music in an RPG, it's always the battle themes, so yeah, those are what come to mind. And basically, yeah, and I wanted something to listen to, it was mainly an RPG battle theme for, for a lot, so yeah. Okay, whether, like, yeah, if I wanted to listen to something, it's either something I recently listened to or really liked, or yeah, just something from an RPG like Battlefield. I feel like yeah. What I'm basically trying to get is that yeah, when I think about video game music that I listen to, I think yeah, I think the highest percentage is probably some RPG Battlefield. So yeah, but yeah, I think there's also comes stuff from my music taste as well. Of course, a good RPG Battlefield is just really energetic and catchy. So yeah. before, they just really set the mood as well for the fight. If a fight is serious, then yeah, the epicness of the battle theme ramps up, So yeah. So again, I think that's something quite important. But of course, RPGs also have some very good overall themes too that also, fit their theming as well. And also just very nice to listen to as well. And yeah, I feel like Xenoblade maybe really appreciate a good overall theme as well. Of course, they also have really amazing battle themes, obviously, but yeah. Like some tracks in like Xenoblade 2, for example, just make me, well, Xenoblade 1, I should be saying, just make me feel very emotional. Like, yeah, when I think about, Xenoblade 2, I think about, Tantal Knight, Orpha, for example. Xenoblade 1 was also extremely good at this too, like, basically like the second part of the game, I guess you could say. When you get the last part, I remember, yeah, very much like all the royal themes of that are just amazing for saying the theme of what's happening in the plot, so yeah. So yeah. There's always sound effects too. I already talked about like car sounds, but yeah, RPGs also have their fair share of satisfying sound effects too. I think yeah, there's like hundreds of examples of satisfying sound effects, but yeah, I think the simple way of describing this is that a good sound effect can basically make your attack just sound so much more epic. Like, in a sense, spells that I just really love to listen to, like Bave 7 Ultima and Persona 3 and 4 Bufudyne, for example. But yeah, again, good sound effects though. This is basically like in any game, to be honest, any good game at least. So yeah. So again, just wanted to touch on that. But yeah, like I said, there's probably many examples I could think of from Razor games and RPGs about sound effects. So yeah. But anyway. So I think that's good for now. So yeah, let's go on to our next topic. Alright, let's talk about some plot and characters now. So you might be wondering, how does this tie into racing games then? Because yeah, racing games have made decent stories, but yeah, it kind of just feels like, just a way to, explain what you're doing and why you're doing it basically. So yeah. So yeah, again, the stories in a racing game aren't normally that important, but yeah. There is like one aspect of it that we can definitely talk about. I guess yeah, right now in fact. So yeah, when I think about plots in racing games, Need for Speed was one that comes to mind, 2005. Because again, yeah, the plot again it's very simple in that game. It's basically just gain revenge against a dude that you race against at the beginning, for stealing your car and stuff. But yeah, I feel like how the story is presented and stuff. It feels like it's supposed to be like this important plot, but everyone's just acting extremely hammy and they think they are like acting cool and stuff, and then it kind of just wraps around and then the game becomes kind of hilarious in a sense. So yeah. So again, yeah, it's kind of an interesting way of viewing things, but hey, it was definitely a kind of an influential plot because again, it gives you a good reason to go out there and get your revenge against this dude. So yeah. But anyway, and then also there's TXR as well. Again, it's technically a plot in the TXR games. Like you're basically told, oh, there's stuff happening in the Shutoku, and then yeah, you can obviously engage that if you so wish. So yeah, I feel like what makes TXR stand out is because yeah, it does try to give the characters more meaning. Um, because yeah, each rival you fight does have like a backstory tied to them, and some games yeah, they might even tell you a little bit more as well. So yeah. So again, I like that, and also yeah, of course, the Tokyo Extreme Racer Drift games, as well as Racing Battle C1 Grand Prix, also had the PBS, where you can basically listen in on, the the NPCs, talking about things, whether it's like gameplay tips, um, hidden gameplay tips, I should be saying, or stealth gameplay tips, should be saying. That's probably the better term. And then, just talking about, the area you're in, and maybe talking about some weird gossip and stuff. It's kind of interesting, to be honest. So, yeah. My aside of those though, you might be wondering, is there even like a plot in something like Red Twister, for example? There can be actually. It can revolve around, role playing and creating storylines that influence by the decisions you make. is again, in Gran Turismo, considering the high amount of cars and stuff, you're basically kind of making a storyline of your own when you're playing these games. So yeah, again, it doesn't have to be story driven or anything like that, but again, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, um, and also yeah, I've also heard that the cars themselves are also the main characters in some recent games like Gran Turismo, for example. And yeah, that makes sense. Gran Turismo likes to teach you about these cars and why they're so cool. So yeah, I can definitely see that making some sense. So yeah. But anyway, now let's go on top of the beta run here, the RPGs. So the thing about plot and characters in RPGs is that this is something that took me some time to appreciate because think about it, like the RPGs that I first started out with were more about gameplay than plot, like Pokemon for example, and Paper Mario. Those games are a lot more well known for their gameplay rather than their plot, even if again they can be quite good. And then Mother 3 technically has a really good plot, but it kind of just flew over my head. I was only really thinking about the gameplay, so yeah. And later on, that's when I would come to appreciate what the plot was trying to say. So yeah, kind of interesting in that regard. But yeah, nowadays though, yeah, plot has become quite important to me when it comes to JRPGs. And yeah, with some game series, it's actually the main reason why I play um the RPG in the first place, like the Trails games, for example. Why I want to, play Cold Steel 3 and 4 is because I want to, see how the plot develops from Cold Steel 1 and 2, for example. So yeah. And yeah, that can also, make sense for other games that are, split into multiple parts, or, have like cliffhanger and stuff like Final Fantasy 7 Remix. So yeah, that also comes to mind. And yeah, plots themselves can be very enjoyable to follow, and yeah, they get on a high note and can make me feel very emotional. Xenoblade 2 obviously comes to mind. Xenoblade 2 is just a very impactful game for me, I feel like, when I played it in 2021. Again, like, yeah, there are some moments that, maybe tear up. But I didn't really, think about that before. Like, I didn't really, like, there weren't really moments that made me tear up other than the Muppets Christmas Carol. No joke. Uh, but yeah, when it comes to games, though, yeah, no games really made me tear up that much. But after, playing Xenoblade 2, that's when, that started to happen a lot more when I played, these very story-driven games. So, yeah. Anyway, and of course, yeah, good plot also needs to have good characters as well. And yeah, there's a lot of great characters. There's a lot of characters that I don't mind, talking about for like an hour or so. So yeah, that's also quite important too. And of course, yeah, they can also shine in gameplay. And for example, but yeah, again, I feel like nowadays, yeah, that plot is actually quite important to me as well. So yeah, and also yeah, seeing how they tie into the themes of the game as well. Like yeah, Persona 3 comes to mind a lot with that because again, it feels like every character just really ties really well into the plot of the game and what the game wants to try and cover. So yeah, it's really well done stuff. So yeah. And yeah, I gotta say something similar about, Persona 2, which I just finished playing recently. So yeah. So that's again why plot and characters is quite important. So yeah, um, that's why plot and characters are really important when it comes to these games I play. Even yeah, like I said, racing games. They can definitely have plot in their own unique ways. So yeah, but anyway, I think now it's time to go over our last talking point. Now things are starting to get a bit more personal for me. Let's talk about underdog factor. So what does this even mean? Let's take racing games, for example, for this. So, when you look, let's say you look up a video about, let's say, I don't know, the top 10 PS1 games, for example. I can assure you that, yeah, most of the time they're probably not going to put, like, either Gran Turismo 1 or Gran Turismo 2 on that list. Which, yeah, that's, I mean, that makes sense, as we'll talk about in a bit. But, again, though, it can't just, I kind of wish that those games did get more mainstream appeal because again, they are really well designed games, and also Gran Turismo 1 was revolutionary for racing games on console too. So yeah, and it was also the best selling game on the console too. So yeah, that just goes to show, just how important that game was. So yeah. But again, like I said though, if you were to look up a top 10 list like that, yeah, I don't think you're gonna be seeing Gran Turismo 1 and 2 pop up that often. So yeah. So that's the thing, yeah. I like root for racing games because they lack mainstream appeal. Despite the fact that, yeah, they can be very well designed games in their own right. And that's something that, yeah, I hope I able to show through when I talk about racing games, like either on the channel or on Backlog, for example. So yeah, and of course, yeah. Well, and also, yeah, maybe also influence you to check them out as well. Maybe watch some videos or play them yourself. So yeah. Now, yeah, on the top of this too, this also reminds me of a great video that Waffle made. He's a Gran Turismo content creator. He made a game basically talking about why people don't care about racing games. Or basically talking about, why racing games lack mainstream appeal nowadays. And again, it's definitely something I recommend looking at. His whole channel, but because again, a lot of his videos talk about, how how these Gran Turismo games are designed, and even talks about, real life as well too, or real life cars as well. So yeah, he's a great channel. Definitely recommend that one. Also sure, again, he basically comes to mind when I think about, underdog factor with racing games and that video I watched. So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, again, that's mainly how it goes with racing games. Again, lacking that mainstream feel. But again, not all racing is obviously like that. Kart races obviously have that mainstream feel. Mario Kart um, sells a lot, obviously. And then a lot of people in my circle have been talking about, some racing crossroads, for example, and people liking that. And I also like that too, to be honest. It does show that, yeah, with the right setup, you can definitely make a racing game extremely popular as well. And yeah, seeing people, like, um, another inspiration for me, they can really enjoy crossroads. That also makes me really happy too. Is again, it's like, yeah, he's enjoying a racing game, which is something I wasn't, expecting. But again, it's just, really nice. Again, it would be nice if, more people like Gran Turismo, but yeah, I guess we can't obviously have everything in this one, can we? So yeah. But again, like I said, yeah, if, Gran Turismo seems interesting, I will watch videos about it or maybe play yourself. So yeah. Anyway. So back to this, RPGs also come down to the underdog factor too, because yeah, there's pretty much any cult classic RPG kind of falls into that list basically, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of RPGs that go on the radar due to either obscurity or they get overshadowed by other games. So like yeah, there's tons of examples. Earthbound obviously, mega cult classic, got very popular on YouTube when people started covering it for example, or not just YouTube. That's how I personally found out about why Earthbound was, such the interesting game that it was. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that forums and stuff probably covered it too. Persona 1 and 2, obviously, because it's me. I hope to show during my playthroughs of Persona 1 2, I wish I showed how great those games are in their own right. Yeah, they do get overshadowed by the amazing heights that modern Persona has been able to reach. So yeah. And of course, Live Alive 2. Live Alive was extremely obscure, being only um, Japanese only until it got its remake. And yeah, that was a game I really liked talking about, or really like thinking about too, because again, people didn't really talk about it that much. So yeah. And then when I found out about it and tried it, I really liked it. And it's a game I hope to, one, get the remake of, and two, maybe play on the channel. So yeah. So, and yeah, of course, there's a lot of satisfaction, getting this, obscure game out there and showing, just how good it was. And also, from my own perspective, trying a game that, again, I wasn't really sure what to think of at first, because again, either the obscurity meant that, yeah, not many people talked about it, or, many people kind of wrote it off as well, kind of just seeing it as archaic. But then I play it, it was a lot better than I was accepting, and yeah, that also feels very satisfying in its own right. So yeah, and yeah, like those games I mentioned, that's basically what happened with those games I mentioned previously. So yeah, say again, Underdog Factor again. This is definitely a lot more personal for me, but yeah, I think it's just again really important for me as someone who plays games. Again, I don't just play all the popular games. I kind of want to, play my own stuff that I find interesting, and hope to show you, though, why these games I play are, special in their own rights, even if, again, they're on genres that are just not as mainstream anymore. So, yeah. Again, it's an interesting thing to talk about. Maybe, maybe it could be revisited another time, but yeah. But again, it's just really interesting to think about. So, yeah. But yeah, like I said, though, that was the last talking point. So, yeah, how about we now conclude this video? To conclude, I hope that this video gives you a good idea of what I really like when it comes to games, and also my thought process when talking about them, playing them on the channel and stuff. It's interesting. It's also interesting, think about what is important to me as well, especially with how my unique view on the games I like as well. Because again, I have seen a lot of YouTubers that play both racing games and RPGs. I wouldn't say a lot, but a few. Um, but again, like I said, I feel like my perspective is still quite a bit different from theirs, So yeah, so that's interesting. It's interesting to think about like that, and yeah, that because that everyone's pretty unique when it comes to gaming. So yeah. But anyway, it's also interesting to see how the two genres intertwine. Of course, a lot of people know that RPG mechanics pop up in other games, and yeah, I can definitely feel that essence when I do play some racing games as well. Like yeah, the first time I covered Gran Turismo on the channel was when I compared to basically Pokemon, because you basically like collecting a lot of cars and then customize them in your own ways as well. So yeah, that definitely came to mind. Of course, I also wanted a big hook for a video like that. So yeah, that obviously makes sense. But yeah, and of course, yeah, not only that, but also these two genres have overlapped. It's very rare, but it has happened. Of course, when most people think of racing game RPG hybrid, they're gonna think of Racing Lagoon, which I hope to check out one day. It's a very interesting game in its own right. Especially because it's a Square RPG that combines RPG gameplay with racing. So yeah, and yeah, there's also like Evolution GT as well. Those milestone games where they decided to add RPG mechanics to the racing. And yeah, Evolution GT might also be the first RPG I ever played as well, technically speaking. So yeah, that's also a game I wouldn't mind checking out just for that fact, even though it's definitely not the best racing game out there. But hey, um, so yeah, there's that. And yeah, so I hope to share that a lot of people already know how in-depth RPGs are. I wanted to still talk about them here though because they're still a very important part to me, like I talked about at the beginning. So yeah, but of course, racing games though, like I was kind of talking about, they're a lot less well known when it comes to um, when it comes to that game design and stuff. So yeah, um, so I hope that I was able to show why the genre is important to me, and also why it seems interesting. Yeah, if I was able to make you think about racing games in a more interesting light, then yeah, that's a job well done. So yeah. Oh yeah, that's mainly everything I want to cover here. And yeah, once again, this is a very interesting topic, and I'm glad that I was able to showcase it for, of course, this 200 subscriber special. Again, like I said, for these kind of videos, I feel like it's important to do something a bit more personal, I think. And yeah, I feel like a video like this was a good idea. So yeah, that's kind of why I want to cover a topic like this. So yeah. So yeah, with that done, again, I hope that this proved a very thought-provoking video as well. I was kind of well known for I was kind of well known for thinking about games in a more philosophical sense back in the days. So yeah, I hope that maybe this gives a good taste of that, I guess. So yeah. But anyway, with that done, I hope to start Aria Sorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to upload that really soon after this. Because I still have my work to think about obviously. So yeah, hopefully that won't get too much in the way. But yeah. Hopefully that won't, prove too difficult for me, I should be saying. Because again, it's very important, obviously. I need to obviously do a good job of that, so yeah. But yeah, again, like I said, hope I can, showcase RSR and yeah, why I think that also will be an interesting game. Once I start learning more about it, because again, it's my first time actually playing through it. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, once again, thank you so much for 200 subscribers. And yeah, here's hoping that yeah, I get you more down the road as well. So yeah. And then yeah, obviously I'll do another video like this, maybe for even more interesting topics as well. So yeah. Like yeah, maybe I have some interesting ideas for potential videos like this in the future. They don't have to be subscriber specials, but yeah, I feel like it makes the most sense. So yeah. But anyway, so with that done, yeah, let's get this show over with now. So yeah, again, look forward to RSR or whatever else I have in store next. And yeah, hope you enjoy that. And yeah, I'll see you guys again for that.